I'm here with Lizz Child from Flow Hockey, as also Flow Sports. So definitely check them out. They have 42 hockey leagues on their platform next year. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. It's exciting. I love talking about all things hockey, so I'm here.
Yeah, Flow just signed like with a partnership with the Q to distribute some stuff. So can you tell me about like what's going to be coming to the platform for Q?
Yeah, so we're gonna have every QMJHL game all the way through playoffs, and it's gonna be really exciting. We're gonna be doing some individual content as well. We'll have highlights. I don't know, I might do some like breakdown of my own, watching some plays, kind of talking about some highlights. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I can't wait. I am a huge fan of like all things CHL. So having the
Yeah.
queue is exciting.
What's like the best CHL game that you ever experienced watching?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Thanks.
Okay, this is gonna be like really niche. And I don't remember exact details. But it was my first game at the ShoWare Center in well, not in Seattle, but in Kent. And watching the Seattle Thunderbirds and the Portland Winterhawks, and it was my first game in person watching the two. I got a Dante Januzzi start, which, if people know anything about me, that is my ride or die goaltender, and I really want to see him signed somewhere. So if anybody with some decision-making powers is watching, that's one for you. And it was just a phenomenal game. We had like Kevin Korchinski playing, we had
Nice.
Seth Jarvis, we had like Clay Hannes, Clay Hannes and Cross Hannes. It's too close of names for me. And it was a phenomenal game. And I was there with my best friend, so it kind of added, I guess, a little bit of that extra. And yeah, it was fun. I honestly, like, this is gonna sound really bad for me saying like I love all things CHL and like me being a WHL person, like ride or die, but I don't fully remember everything in that game. I do know there were like two goals called off. One of them was a Seth Jarvis goal. I know that Seattle ended up winning with like a late good goal call, and it was like, as a Portland Winterhawks like die hard, kind of broke my heart a little bit. But it was just so fun to experience, and the atmosphere out there was incredible.
Yeah, I like watching the Thunderbirds. I'm a huge Kevin Korchinski guy. Obviously, I do Blackhawks content too. So, I want your opinion first on Kevin Korchinski, but what is it like watching the top prospects live, and how do you know if a guy is going to be reaching his potential as well as if the development in the WHL is worth going there? Because I know Kevin Korchinski could have went back to the WHL, but with the rule change, he couldn't go to the AHL, so they brought him to the NHL.
I mean, watching them live is intense because you get a lot of this kid could be something. We don't know yet, but this could be really exciting. This could be one of those moments of, hey, we were watching him before anyone knew who he was. Granted, a guy like Kevin Korchinski, especially in his draft year, people are talking about him more and more people are knowing who he is. Like it's fine. Um, but you get really excited because you're just like, man, you see the potential that these guys have, and it's just obviously you don't know. You don't know who's gonna hit. You don't know who's gonna like reach that everything that, everyone's touting them to be. But at the same time, it's like there's so much here to be excited about, and there's so much that, you want to watch them for. Like Kevin Korchinski, just with his skating alone, you just kind of sit there and you're like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
fun. And then you get to the rest of his game and like you see him score and you're just like, okay, you're a defenseman, so your scoring probably isn't the thing I should be most exciting about. But also, that was really fun to watch. And, I mean, I don't think we're ever gonna be at that point, at least I'm not, where I'm gonna be able to be like, yeah, that guy's gonna be everything everyone's touting him to be. But there's a different energy, I think, around certain prospects that you can visibly see when they're on the ice, where it's a change of pace. They're doing things in the game. And even if it's not like one of the top prospects, you just get that sense of, yeah, he's doing something. This is different. Like there's another feeling to watching this kid play that I think we need more of. And
Yeah.
anytime you get that sense of we need more of this, that's when for me personally, I'm like, okay, this is someone to watch. This is a guy I'm gonna keep an eye on like throughout his career.
Like Kevin Korchinski, I know he had a tough time coming into the league with the Blackhawks with the physicality as well as his plus minus numbers. But do you see him becoming a top four player for the Blackhawks in the future? Or did they really not destroy his development, but do you think they mismanaged the development a little bit with him because bringing him up too early?
I don't think I'm gonna say they mismanaged. I'm gonna say it wasn't quite the right time. I think having him in the AHL for the most part this season helped him
Mhm.
immensely kind of get back to finding his rhythm. And I think, talking to him, he'd say the same thing where it's like, okay, I needed that time. I needed to relearn the pace of the game. Um, I am a little disappointed he didn't get more time to just kind of stew in the okay, I'm at the top of my game. I need to learn how to keep up with being at the top of my game, being at the top of playing against everyone else. Um, so I mean, okay, to blatantly answer your question, yes, I do think he was mismanaged a little bit, but I don't necessarily think that going back, I would encourage them to do anything differently.
Mhm.
I think getting that experience was extremely valuable for him, but I also think that he needs this time and like he needed this season especially to kind of reacquaint himself with everything that being a pro and
Mhm.
being at that level is.
Yeah, and I love your answer. And just I want to say, like, for the Blackhawks, they knocked that draft out of the park because it was 2022. It was Kyle Davidson's first draft. They got Frank Nazar at 13, as well as Sam Renzel at 25. And those players look like absolute cornerstones for the franchise. So Kevin Korchinski now is the guy that is the dark horse of that draft, but I still think that he's going to be a fantastic player. So either way, the Blackhawks did incredibly well. I appreciate that your response. It was very honest and everything. Can I talk to you a little bit about like how you got started in hockey as well as like what was the first moment you were like, I want to do this for the rest of my life?
Um, that's a really hard question to answer. So I started um kind of just on a whim. I don't know if you knew the site Dub Network back a few years ago. But it was like the place to get WHL content, WHL stories, news, interviews. Um, and I had been following them for a while. I'd been following a bunch of their writers, and then COVID happened. Obviously, there were no games, so there weren't really any stories coming out. Dub Network shut down for I think like a month, maybe two, and a bunch of their writers left to go like start a new site, do other projects, do a bunch of things. So they started posting that they were looking for writers. I lived in California, so I was not near any WHL team. Um, and I sent a Hail Mary DM saying, hey, would it be fine if I'm like not near any teams? I have an interest. And I got back, hey, send an email, send a sample work. Mind you, at this time, I had no sample writing. I had no experience doing any of this, had never done an interview, had never done a story, didn't write news. Like I wasn't a journalism student, nothing. I had no inclination in like college or in high school. Again, for those who know me, I've taken like 3 college courses. I do not have a degree in this, so you do not need a degree in this. So I sent an email, and I've posted the email on my social media before that I sent, where I basically begged. I said, "Let me do anything for the site, even if it's not writing. I want to help out somehow." And I sent my sample writing. I believe it was a piece on, like, it was just my opinion on Isaiah DeLaura, who the Portland Winterhawks had just gotten from the Swift Current Broncos, like goaltender. Obviously, I'm going to write about a goalie.
Yep.
Um, and I got back, yeah, you can cover Portland. And I went, that's a big franchise, but that's what I wanted. So thank you. Started writing about Portland during, again, no games, nothing going on, like no one to talk to. Just started writing pieces. And that kind of compiled into, okay, now I'm going to cover more of the US division. Okay, now I'm going to cover the Western Conference of the WHL. So I was like like when we finally started getting games back, I was doing interviews with Portland. I did interviews with Seattle. Spokane, Tri-City. I didn't talk very much to Everett. I have done a few things, but I we had other people covering them for a while, but like Victoria, just basically up and down the Western Conference. And I went, okay, this is fun. I enjoy this. I was doing all of this for free.
Hmm.
I was doing like multiple articles a week and just having fun. I was working two full-time jobs on the side and a part-time job. Um, and then I was living in the Bay Area in California, and I saw San Jose Hockey Now was hiring for a Barracuda beat writer for the AHL, and that would be X amount of dollars per article you write. Went, that could be interesting. It's still
Yeah.
like it's still prospects, and I honestly like some of these kids played for Portland. I would love to talk about them more. Had applied, and I don't know if it's ever been out there. I did not originally get it. Someone else got the job. I was informed, sorry, Shang, if this is a secret, that I was, the next option, but like appreciated it, but so he went with someone else. Um, a couple months later, I get a call, "Hey, are you still interested? Um, we actually have a spot open now, and we would love for you to come do it." So I did the rest of the season. I think that was in like January of 2022. Yeah, January of 2022. So I started covering the Barracuda for San Jose Hockey Now. I was still doing all my WHL stuff, and still having multiple jobs that paid me. Um, and then at the end of the season, the Barracuda, I got approached and they said, "Hey, would you like to just come work for us directly?" And I said, "Yeah. Why
Yeah.
would I say no to that?" Got all the paperwork done over the summer. Started with them that season. Ended up like the first week of the season, they had the social media position open, and digital position. I originally was not supposed to do it for the whole time. I don't know how much of that I can like get into, but
Hmm.
I ended up doing that for the whole season. So I was writing as like the team insider. I was also running the social media and keeping up the website, and that was fantastic.
Wow.
Mind you, at that point, I still had like never picked up a camera. Sorry, this is like a long story. When I tell you,
No,
it's like
this is
so much to
amazing.
go
Yeah.
on. But like had never really picked up a camera, never done anything like that. And so I went, okay, sure. Had to learn how to use like Photoshop and Illustrator and everything. Luckily, the Barracuda ended up having great graphic designers who like helped me and really taught me everything. In the fall of 2023, I was let go by the Barracuda and ended up kind of lining up perfectly to, I think, like 2 weeks before I had my first interview for Flow Hockey. And then I basically had, I think, 5 weeks
Hmm.
before I got a call from Flow Hockey being like, "Hey, yeah, you want to come work for us? Like, it's great." Got hired by Flow Hockey or Flow Sports in December of that year. Um, my third week, I flew to Sweden for the World Juniors and have basically been rolling ever since, and it's been incredible. But I have like the longest, most convoluted way. And I don't think I ever had a moment of like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my
Hmm.
life. It just kind of started happening, and I went, yeah, cool. I don't think I really ever like sat and thought about it. Like,
You were just in the flow. It just there was no tension. It just happened. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, so I'm not trying to be like, oh man, getting into this industry is
Hmm.
easy, but it's possible. Like you, as long as you do it. But again, like I like telling people you don't have to have a degree, you don't have to
Hmm.
have like all of the experience in the world, but like that work ethic. And I'm not saying I'm like the most like, oh, I'm always on top of everything, but I was working multiple jobs, covering a league that I was nowhere near during a time where there weren't even any games going on. And then like it just kind of went from there, and I still can't really believe it.
Hmm.
But you
Yeah.
have to have like do it.
I think like you think that story was absolutely incredible. And I think it's inspiring for a lot of people, especially people that are watching this, because I think if something is right for you and you truly have that passion and the love for it, and you are going to put in the work and grind and have that hard work, you can succeed no matter where you come from. I don't have, I went to school for nursing. I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. The building got
Okay.
destroyed by a hurricane. So I had to switch majors. And then I went to Germany for just because my roommates, it was a roommate trip, and it was for the school. I was studying abroad, but he was like, "Hey, I just broke up with my girlfriend. Can you come with me to this trip? I know you're nursing." And I fell in love with international business and marketing, so I got in a finance degree. And then in finance, I did the YouTube route. I was trying to understand social media and stuff, but I was just not happy in it. I started writing in like 2019 for Torque News about electric vehicles and stuff, but I was just like, I'm not happy. I just started posting on, Twitter about hockey and stuff and everything like 12 weeks ago. I've been writing for a long time, but I started posting 12 weeks ago and everything kind of just progressed into what it was. Like I got invited to the combine or I got credentials to the combine. I met like Chris Peters and all these guys, and it's very surreal because just for the audience, you don't know what you're going to do and where you end up. I think it's just kind of fate and what happens. So that's an awesome story. I'm very happy that you like got our on here and shared that because I think a lot of people out there in my comments and my DMs always try to ask me like how you got started or did you go to Cronkite school or anything like that. Like I did not. I just if you so that was awesome. Like Flow hockey is awesome. Chris Peters is awesome. So I'm so glad that you got to experience that. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, your story, that's insane. I'm sorry. Absolutely wild. One, hurricanes terrify me. So like the fact that your
Yeah.
like nursing school building got destroyed by a hurricane and like you were there.
Well, we evacuated to 2 hours and a
But
half
I mean
away. Like
like
there was time.
you were still in the vicinity of like
Yeah.
you knew what was happening. I would have been like actually I wouldn't even have been there. I'm not a fan of like locations where hurricanes can be.
Yeah,
It's probably like
that's
my
true.
number one least favorite like natural disaster like that. I'm I'm good. So just the fact that you're there, but also like that's an incredible story too because you kind of tried different things and tested out like what you wanted to do and like you said, it kind of finds you and you just kind of start doing it and you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
is work. This is pretty cool. This is fun. And then as a side note, I first met Chris Peters actually at the 2022 um, rookie face-off in San Jose, and
Mhm.
I genuinely I don't know if he remembers this, but like he had no idea who I was at the time, I think. And I saw him and I like ran up to him and I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you Chris Peters?" And I had like a full moment of like, "Oh, I know who you are. I follow you." And I genuinely think maybe if you ask him now, he might be like, "Oh, no, I know." But like I fully think that I terrified him and I just because I was crazy. I just ran up and I was like, "You're Chris Peters." Because yeah, again, if you've met me, like most people who know me in like my day-to-day life know I don't really have any kind of like filter. I'm just like
Yeah.
if someone's gonna think I'm insane, they're gonna think I'm insane down the road anyway. Why not just up front? Um, but then also he had a hand in hiring me here, so maybe he didn't think I was that crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I got the luxury. I have no idea how I saw like there was the Avengers of scouting at a table in the Lacom seventh floor lobby, and I was just like, you guys brought the Avengers out here, and then he laughed and stuff. So I told him I'm from Chicago, and then he I ended up going to a bar to watch the Panthers game, and
Okay.
I just went up to the bar. They came up to me and were like, "Hey, we have a table up here." And then like we just had a couple, we just talked, we watched the game a little bit, and I actually got to drive Chris Peters home from the hotel because I drove in from Chicago, which later ended up being a bad idea because my back and I was so tired. But Chris
Oh my
Peters and I
gosh.
were just like we vibed pretty well. Like it was awesome. I mean, it just happened. Like I think this weekend. Yeah, I mean, it's been a blur the last couple of days, but I told him that I would have made the NHL, but I sprained my pinky in fourth grade and it stopped my development, and he loved that joke. Uh,
Uh,
Great person, honestly. Like he is awesome. I think that it was really awesome to meet him and everything. So he definitely liked you. I don't think he would have hired you or had a say in hiring you if he didn't think that that was awesome. Like Midwest Chicago guy. I mean, I think we're all pretty open. Uh, we can't really hide who we are. I think that was something that I think is funny. But So just aside from all that, that was an incredible story and everything. Can you just tell me about like what was your favorite moment working at Flow Hockey as well as just like working in the NHL space or hockey space? And has there ever, I'll give you two questions. Is there ever a moment where you felt starstruck?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I've had a moment where I felt starstruck for that one. Um I think for the most part I've been fairly all right, go with the flow. Oh my gosh. Puppies.
They're in love.
That's the best thing ever. Okay, right there. Maybe I'm starstruck right there. You show me puppies and I'm gonna
Yeah.
everything out of my brain. I don't know. As far as like my favorite moments like working at Flow or like working in hockey, um, I will be honest with you. The fact that my first thing that I really did at Flow Hockey was go to Sweden to cover the World Juniors, which was my like top tier. This is the event that one day I want to cover. I want to cover the World Juniors. And that was my first event at Flow. And then like Team USA won. I don't really know how I can beat that. It was just like an incredible experience.
Yeah.
No, like I don't really know if I can pick a favorite. Like that was a big one. But I think like over the past year, just being able to do so many different things, like we did a trip to the Florida Everblades, we went to the Springfield Thunderbirds. I've been at two AHL All-Star events now. Also following Yaroslav Askarov around while he was mic'd
Mhm.
up, and he's like sitting there. He started out the day telling me, "Oh, I'm not going to say much," and then proceeded to not stop talking for 3.5 hours.
That's awesome.
That was a pretty fun moment. I also had Curtis McKenzie mic'd up at that event. Every goaltender that came and stood by me, uh Grant Fuhrer, I will say, if you want to talk about a moment when I was starstruck, I wasn't completely like off of it. But I was standing next to him on the bench, like having the camera on the guys, and I just kind of kept looking over like I'm standing next to Grant Fuhrer.
Yeah.
Okay, and especially like as a goalie person, I'm sitting there like he's standing there. And at one point I looked at him and I said, "Hey, Grant, would you mind wearing this mic? And I have you mic'd up for like a period of this All-Star game." And and I was like terrified to like ask him. And he just was like, "Yeah, sure." And just took it and like put it on. And I went,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna say I was like completely starstruck, but I definitely had that like I am standing next to Grant Fuhrer. Oh my gosh, Grant Fuhrer is letting me put a mic on him. Like, okay. That was a pretty big moment. I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite because like I do a series called or like a video series called Goalies Are dot dot dot, and every one of those is my favorite. Like anytime I get to talk to a goalie, I think is just my favorite moment in life. Maybe sounds a little weird, but it's what it is.
Can I have your goalie Mount Rushmore?
Ooh, oh, okay. Listen, I know everyone's gonna expect me to say like NHL guys and like top tier. Um,
Mhm.
But again, if anybody knows anything about me, my first goaltender that I'm putting out there is Dante Gennazzi, and I don't care. I'm going to stand by that. I think I'm going to go Marc-Andre Fleury because you have to. You'd be
Yeah.
insane not to. Well, I'm gonna leave some guys off of here that people are gonna get pissed about. Martin Brodeur. Also, again, I'm not that old, so I don't have like a connection to some of these like all-time greats.
Yeah.
Like I did air quotes there. They're truly incredible, but like, sorry, I'm gonna leave some guys off. Um, I'm gonna round it out with Carey Price and lock that
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Um,
That's awesome.
so
The last three, like they're definitely in mine for sure. Yeah.
listen, I don't care. It's one of those, if you know me, you knew he was gonna be on that list. I'm gonna support that kid until the day he decides to retire, and then probably even after then. So
Yeah. Yeah. So shout out. But um I'm surprised, no Spencer Knight on there. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, Carey Price is awesome. I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury was a number one pick, and when's the last time we
for a
will ever see
reason,
that?
with incredible reason.
Do you ever
Like,
think we'll see another number one pick goalie?
yeah, we're gonna get there. If I have to make it happen myself, we're gonna
Yeah.
get there.
When you're a
Uh,
GM,
But
Yeah.
as like a general actual answer, yes, I do think it will happen again. I think it will not it's not ever going to be common. It's never going to be like a, oh yeah, goalies are just going first overall all the time. But there's going to be a kid. There's going to be someone out there.
Like if Joshua Ravensbergen had like a 9.57 or 9.6 save percentage, like he would be in the conversation. Just 6'5", like great attitude, incredible skater.
See, you brought up goalie heights, and that's my entire thing is goalie heights do not matter.
Ivan
And that's a
Kovic guy.
statement that's gonna get it's a statement that's gonna get so much hate because every time I post it, I have some scout or someone in my comments or someone in my DMs being like, but they do. It's proven, it's obvious. And I'm like, okay, I understand that that's the consensus, and I understand that that's the like baseline, but there are goaltenders who completely skew that. And like just because it's not commonplace doesn't mean goalie has to be tall
Yeah,
for to be
yeah.
successful.
UC Saros, Wolf. I mean, you have Jack Ivankovic. Like Jack Ivankovic, I don't know if people have seen my goalie rankings, but he's actually my number one goalie in this class. And I know Jack. I mean, Ravensburg and my dogs are making crazy, hilarious noises. I love that one. But Ravensburgen is 6'5", and I still think Jack Ivankovic is better. His comp is actually UC Saros. So yeah, why do you think that it's talked about so much?
I think it's because it's one, goalies, I think overall are the hardest to scout. So you see a big guy who takes up a lot of the net, automatic thought is he takes up more of the net, saves are going to be easier for him, he has longer reach, it's fine. Um, but like you talk to the goalies, and that's never something that they ever bring up. No matter how tall, no matter how short, the goalies are never like, oh, my extra reach helps me. They're never talking about like, I take up more of the net. I mean, it's true. I'm not discrediting that. But what I'm meaning is like there are so many other things that go into being a quality goaltender that like height being like, oh yeah, but he's a 6'5" goaltender. Like, and okay, can he can he move? Can he skate like at all? Like that's the biggest thing that every goaltender I've talked to is like, goalies have to be good skaters. It's insane that people think that goalies don't skate because like you have to be able to move on the ice. Like you have to know your edges, you have to know how to like just get around and like that self-awareness. I'm like, there's so many other things. And yes, while height helps make the job easier, that's not the qualifying factor for a goaltender.
That was a great breakdown. I think one thing that I'll bring up, which is height related, is Frank Ivankovic. He was a 6'5" goaltender. That was Jack's dad. Frank had a growth spurt, very large growth spurt at 20 years old. Jack Ivankovic is still growing, and I know he's 5'11". If I don't think that, if he was 6'1", his draft position would be a higher. Maybe it would be, but I think it's just based on how cool, calm, collective, and this kid is like. There's a lot of leadership there too. He's a really great personality. Some people say that a lot of goalies have some weird pregame rituals and stuff like that. I think that that's like not completely true. Every goalie I've ever talked to doesn't really have the weird pregames.
So my thing is, I made the series called Goalies Are dot dot dot. On the premise that I want the goalies to finish the sentence to rewrite that statement because everyone's always like, "Oh, goalies are weird. Goalies are weird." Um, Almost every goaltender I've asked, "Hey, complete the sentence. Goalies are dot 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 with whatever you want," have said some version of weird, odd, strange. I'm like, guys, I'm giving you the chance to break that and like change that narrative, and you're sitting here like in reinforcing it, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, come on. But it's funny because almost all of them are like, I don't have anything weird, but my goalie partner does, and I'm like, okay, because
yeah.
if I asked him the same thing, he's gonna say that about you. So
They're they're embracing the stereotype by saying other goalies are weird, but I haven't heard any statements of why goalies are weird. I can't get to the bottom of this. So I think it should be
um
like a research paper.
from what I've gathered, it's more that goalies have a lot more of a specific, which honestly, if you talk to half the guys in the NHL, they have minute by minute breakdowns. I will say Mikey DiPietro did honestly say it's because I have an exact like minute by minute what I do to get ready for a game, which I'm like, I don't really know if that's weird. I feel like that's just structured, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I get it if you're saying that's weird. Um, but I think that's normally the thing that it comes down to is they have like different warm-up routines
Mhm.
that I think other people think are like look weird, but it's not just them. Most of them do whatever the weird thing is, and it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
sure, yeah, goalies are weird. They have sometimes have weird hobbies, but I think everyone at some point has weird hobbies.
I Whenever I ask a player like what's the weirdest pregame ritual or something, I'll come back to this really quick, but it's always like to any goalie, it's always like I don't have a weird ritual, and then they'll list like nine weird things that they're doing, like with their eyes or stretch. I mean, the stretching out, I totally get. Like you should be getting your whole body loose. Obviously, I it's honestly something that we don't talk about, but the back injuries, like I am I feel that I should not have a lot of pain that I have with back injuries. So I stretch out a lot, but I can be wearing a backpack and twist the wrong way and I'm like done for like 2 days. Like they're doing this for 60 minutes and plus warm-ups and all this stuff.
Yeah. And I'm always like, I don't know. I feel like the things that actually help with your game probably aren't really weird. That's just
Yeah.
necessary and probably smart. And other guys should also be doing that. So if they're calling you weird for it, the thing with the eyes, I'm like, they're a muscle like anything. What? So I talked to Braden Holt back in 2020. He's a former Everett Silvertips goaltender, former Victoria Royals goaltender. And he was fascinating to talk to just because he went into kind of like more of the science of like when you're a goaltender, you have to actually like turn your entire head because you need to keep the puck directly like in front of your eyes versus like using peripherals. And I'm like, that makes sense when you say it, but like I don't think I would have thought about it. I don't think I would have thought about actually like turning. Maybe that's just me not being thinking about it, I guess. But and like he just went into like the whole like how he takes care of himself, how he takes care of his eyes, how he works out his eyes like a muscle because they are a muscle. And just kind of like going through everything. And I was like, this is fascinating. These are the types of conversations I want to have for hours. Even though they will do nothing for me because I'm never gonna be a goaltender, but I don't know, they seem interesting. Like they're different.
Yeah. I think that's really actually interesting. I would have thought it would be peripheral, but also like I'm thinking about it now, like with the helmet or the goalie mask, it's probably hard if there's a blind spot there to turn.
Yeah.
That is
So
interesting.
I'm like, I had never thought about the fact that like, yeah, when you're warming up, that's why they're turning like their whole body versus like, oh, I'm looking and then turning, which
Yeah.
again, when you think about it after the fact, it makes sense. But it's having someone like explain that to you when you've never done it before and you're just like, yeah, see, it looks weird, but it's actually smart.
I will say the weirdest pregame ritual that I've been told by like 5 to 7 prospects now is moon water. I don't know if you've heard about this one. Um, a prospect puts a glass of water out before games and then has the moon shine on it so that he drinks it. And because he scored a goal the day after he did that, and now he increase put it into his routine. And I posted the video, and a bunch of people are like, I'm trying it." And I thought like that's interesting. So I think that was the weirdest one, but I can totally see the benefit. Like I don't see the well, I could totally see why it could
I
work.
can mentally,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
where it's like, okay, I'm settling in. I don't I mean, again, I might just not know the science of it.
yeah.
I don't think I've heard that as like a, yeah, this is a help. I mean, I don't know. There's some weird stuff out there that I don't know about. So maybe there is some benefit to it. I have no idea. But if it works,
Yeah.
like, who am I to say anything about it? So,
He scored. So
yeah.
can you tell
Um,
me, I you've been very gracious with your time, so I just can you tell me like your favorite moments ever watching a hockey game? I know like it doesn't have to be juniors or it could be NHL and anything like that. Just like what was your favorite moment ever?
So this is gonna sound funky, and I'm gonna get a lot of people angry with this. I lived in Las Vegas during the expansion, and I was there for game one. I was also there for 1 October. I was at that game because it was against the Sharks, and I was like, if I'm gonna go to a preseason game, it's gonna be against the Sharks. I was down on the strip. I had just left when everything started happening, so that was a whole thing. And that first game when they came back for that home opener, I'm like, I'm gonna get emotional just talking about it. But just the way that team just embraced the city and kind of like brought all of that. Sports are at their core kind of a distraction from the real world. And the fact that they kind of found a way to mesh them, but also still were that distraction for people. But also just the way that that city just kind of embraced that team in that moment of, yeah, you're not just trying to distract us, you're actually being part of the city and being a part of all of this. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily like an on ice hockey moment, but it was probably the most impactful moment of hockey that I've ever experienced. Um, just going from being there that night and then being at that home opener and having just so many memories and everything that um experience with so many friends who became family throughout that year. And like, yeah, it's not even like a hockey moment, and I feel like I'm not trying to like bring this down, but it's just being able to see that, especially with a brand new organization, and in a city like Las Vegas where you just kind of don't necessarily expect that, was incredible and probably something I'm never gonna get over.
Yeah, I complete that was before that was 2019, right? Or
It was 2017.
2017. Wow. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about all of that. That is really interesting, and thank you for being so honest. I mean, that is I feel like you are right. Sports are something that has helped a lot of people get through a lot of things as well as help distract and because you know so many people have a lot of passions around any sport and I think hockey had helped me a lot too. Just like there's so much like happiness that comes, heartbreak, or any emotion that is elicited, especially like that's why I like working with prospects and things like that because the pain of it is delayed if anything bad happens or they get traded. It's like you get a player, you get them, and then maybe 3, 4 years down the road, but that's a long time. So it's not like watching a playoff game and then getting crushed because thankfully I'm a Blackhawks fan and we don't have those. Um, so I,
Well,
I think that's yeah, not yet. Kind of God will help us.
soon. They're
Uh,
coming. They're coming. But yeah, I think it was a moment that I think everyone knew was going to be a moment. Um, I will say that my favorite thing from the 2024 World Juniors um was Macklin Celebrini showing up in a Wood jersey instead of his own because he couldn't find his jersey.
yeah,
And I think that's a moment a lot of people forget about from like the post game. So like, again, not something that happened on the ice, but a memorable moment for me.
yeah. At that moment, the Sharks should have just not taken Celebrini and had let the Hawks take him. I mean, that was just ill-advised. No,
I don't know about that.
I know. I guess something came out today that, or maybe it was 5 days ago, but it really started hitting the news today about Charlie Miliotis, who's a Blackhawks, so like very big
Okay.
Blackhawks media personality. He said that the Blackhawks were in talks to try to trade for Macklin Celebrini last year, and I'm not. They wouldn't say if it was getting close, but it was certainly something they were seriously interested in. So I thought that was notable.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think that was ever gonna get close.
Yeah.
It would have been an insane, like, what they need to give up in that situation. And I don't think that either side would have ever been at that point of like, yeah, this deal's getting done. I could be wrong.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm
I
not
don't
an
think so.
insider
I agree
with
with you.
either of these teams. But that just feels like something that would be far and away probably over the top for A the ask, but B like why would you be willing to? I mean, Macklin Celebrini is an incredible player, but you would be basically jeopardizing every future year having that player
That's true.
by getting him.
It would have had to be 2025 first, along with number two, significant prospect package, and maybe like would we have picked 18 overall too? It could have been three first overall pick or three first round picks. And I mean, it would definitely have been interesting, to say the least. The Blackhawks were
Yes.
also interested in getting Demidov and then offered 2025 and their first and second. I think they could have added a little more in if that was the end all be all, but they obviously were trying to be aggressive there.
I think that might have been more of a possibility. Like that for sure I think would have been more open. I think especially in a team that like needs players like that, the San Jose like I can't imagine. That said, again, I'm not an insider. Who knows? Maybe the like what they were offering was just so tempting to like, yeah, we give it a couple more years and then we get to that level. But I don't know. That's a trade that I don't think that I ever like no matter what you're offering probably would have made that. Unless you're offering like a Connor Bedard, but then at that point like
Yeah,
what are you doing?
I would have been
Um
upset at that time. Yeah.
yeah. So who knows?
Do you have any animals in your, do you have any, yeah, like a dog or cat?
I don't. I've had multiple pets in the past. I don't in Austin, just when moving here. Um, and I'm upset about it. I'm like, hopefully someday soon, but also I travel a lot. So I think just having to leave pets every 5 seconds would be heartbreaking for me. That said, we do have office dogs here at Flow, and I get to hang out with them every day, so it's really exciting
That's
for me.
you're there.
Whoever drafts LJ Mooney, I'm gonna be a fan of.
I love LJ Mooney.
I'm here
Yep.
for him.
Can you tell me about just your favorite prospects in this NHL draft class and some sleepers?
Ooh. Okay. Well, I think we made it very clear before. Vaslav Nestersil. I'm very excited to watch him and see where he goes. And while there are teams that I hope don't take him, there are teams that I'm like, you would be really fun to watch there. I'm not going to name names because I don't want any fan
Blackhawks.
bases specifically mad at me. Um, as I said, LJ Mooney, I refer to him as a baby French bulldog, because like he is small, but also like he's got some bite to him. But he doesn't like look scary. But like when he goes off, like he can go off. Like it's just one of those. And I think the injury earlier in the season kind of made it so like a lot of people didn't really see a ton of him. And that's a big thing. Um, oh my gosh, now I'm like blanking on every prospect on the planet. Um,
This is great content.
Obviously,
Come on.
again,
No.
Jackson Smith. He's a kid that I've been
Yes.
watching since he got drafted to the Dub. Super excited to see where he goes. He's one of those. He's an earlier draft pick, so not necessarily the biggest. Ivan Rabkin. I'm excited to see where he goes. My one note on him, and I'm very sorry to the Muskegon Lumberjacks. Please don't hate me for this, specifically Ezra Janello. Um, but I cannot stand watching that kid skate. I love everything about his game except for his skating. I every time he starts to skate, I'm out. I can't do it. But everything else, excellent. Personality wise, I'm excited for whoever drafts Jack Mertag. He's just a fun dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love watching him. I feel like these are all very biased for me. I'm like forgetting every single like guy who's draft eligible this year. Jordan Gavin. He is a guy I have been waiting for his draft year for years. If anybody has followed me on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it nowadays, you know that for the longest time I've been going, I am waiting for Gavin's draft year. And I don't think he's shown in the dub as much as he could have done to, raise his draft stock or to get him up there. but I still have every faith in the world that he can be a guy that's going to contribute at that next level. And again, he's kind of a smaller guy, but I think like he is my late in the draft. If he's not gone by like sixth round, I'm gonna be livid with somebody. And I don't know who yet, but he is probably in this draft my come on, somebody pick this kid. I know it's not going to be that early, but he needs to be there.
I liked the Muskegon Lumberjacks talk. I got to interview Ivan Ryabkin and as well as Nestrasil multiple times. I love Nestrasil's family. Like I think I said previously in this one, I just had a show before and I don't remember if I told the Nestrasil story then, but um yeah, like they have a 2026 eligible too that is going to pop and I really like his game. I'll do a profile on Lawrence Lawrence soon,
Yeah, Tynan
but
Lawrence, I'm very excited for him too.
yeah, he played awesome this year. I mean, he was probably their best player, and they also have Luka Radojevich,
Yep.
um, a very good player too. So Muskegon has a lot of like the USHL. I think they had the most draft eligible probably players. Um, I mean, especially in the first couple rounds. But yeah, it's a great program. The my question actually did hit my head. One person I actually want to say before is Jacob Rombach. He is awesome. I owe him a pint of raspberry chip ice cream if he gets drafted by the Blackhawks, which is his favorite team. He chirps me a
Okay.
lot for this. I don't know where he wants. I think Oberweis. But do you think that the development of a player matters basically if they're going to the WHL, the Q, or the CHL, the Q, or the NCAA now?
Like, do I think that it's going, sorry, can you
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of like
sorry.
clarify what you're meaning by that?
So, does a player's development path to the NHL impact how teams see them? Because I know the Q, they always say, you know, Dane Aurier or Bill Zonin or Justin Carbonneau, they play in the Q, so it's not that much better of a league, but they're always competitive during the Mem Cup. So, is there like a perfect, or is there a better development path nowadays to play the better
Mm,
players? Like,
I don't want to say too much. Let's see.
I don't want to get you in
I
trouble, so you don't have to say anything.
I think that there is a great path no matter what a player decides to do. I think it depends on the player. So taking like the route where you're playing like USHL to NCAA still is still phenomenal because you're getting that experience, especially when you get to the NCAA where you're playing against the bigger guys, the older guys. I think in the CHL, among the three leagues, there's benefits to various leagues, like the Dub, the O, and the Q, all have their own strengths. And believe me, I can talk for hours on what each of them are. I can talk for hours about the USHL strengths. I can talk for hours about NCAA, just like how that affects the game. But I think it's really dependent on the player. And I don't think that there's any one correct path, especially in this. I do think that like NIL changes the game just on like a decision making process. But I think as a development process, it's going to just depend on how the player takes all of that in and kind of develops their own game aside from what everyone's like the training that they're getting and like everything coming in to them. It's going to be what they take out of it. A really bad way to say no, I don't. But also, I do think it is going to be an important decision that does affect players, but I don't think that there's any like this is better like as a blanket statement for anybody.
Okay, so let me give you a hypothetical. You are a goalie, and when you're a goalie and you're playing in the NCAA, you might play 2, 3 games a week, but in the WHL, you're playing a lot more. So, what path would you take if you were a goalie?
Depends because again, in the NCAA, you're
True.
taking shots from bigger guys, you're taking shots from guys who've played longer, who have various other levels of experience. Whereas like in the dub, you're playing against guys more or less your own age. You're playing against guys that, you see so many times. Also, it's one of those like sometimes when you play a team like 10 times a year, it's different than, oh, I only see you two, maybe three times a year. And like now I'm having to take shots. I don't have as much time to like take it in. I don't have as much video on you. So again, it's one of those like I don't think
Yeah.
that there is a like correct. For from me, if I were a goalie, I would be thinking more about where I would get more use personally. Um, but I don't think there's like a correct like goaltenders are going to develop better
Mhm.
here because they're playing more games, or goaltenders are going to develop better here because they're seeing bigger guys coming at them. It's just kind of one of those. And now you can do both. So,
Yeah.
you know, either
Great
way.
answer. Yeah. Definitely PR trained. And it was great hearing your story on how you grew up in Sweden and learned the SHL game, transitioned to the American Hockey League. Uh, no,
Would have
I
been a
use it.
thing.
Thank you so much again. Do you want to have the floor to promote anything that you want to promote?
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with draft prospects, but the Calder Cup playoffs are going on, or the Calder Cup final, sorry, corrected. The Calder Cup final is going on right now, and I'm very excited. I will be in Charlotte for games 1 and 2, and then we'll be back in Charlotte if games 6 and 7 happen, and I'm very excited. Charlotte versus Abbotsford is going to be an incredible series. I have no idea who's going to win this one, um, and it's going to be really fun, and you can watch it on Flow Hockey. So.
I grew up in, or I went to college in North Carolina, so I my pick would be Charlotte Checkers, and also I like the name, but not trying to be biased, but that is who I was going to pick. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome. I'm going to put all the links of Flow Hockey as well as Liz and your X or Twitter, because I like to call it Twitter, in the description below. But thank you so much for coming on. This was absolutely awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun.